The fever has already started. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that was issued in 2001 warns of all the bad things that are going to happen during this century.
And more, we see the progression of this economic model through disasters. So we're now in a cycle where the economic model itself is so destructive to the planet that the number of disasters are increasing.
Why do we still not take it seriously? We take it seriously rationally, but nonetheless we cannot act.
I think we need to fear people who love systems more than people, because the flip side of the love is a hatred for anything or anyone that interferes with the realization of that system.
Hope is only where despair is. Something truly new beginning happens only when you are in such a deep shit that within the existing coordinates, you can find no way out. And then, in order to survive, you have to invent something new. The magic is to turn a desperate situation into a new beginning.
Listening to Fruitless, a podcast hosted by me, Josiah Sutton. This is episode 24, Children of Men, or the Fruitless Christmas Special, featuring Chris Barker and Alien. All right, well, welcome everybody to the Fruitless Christmas Special, New Year's Special, whatever we want to call it. And I am joined today by two of my favorite people to talk with, Chris Barker.
Hey.
And Alien, aka Stewie Griffin DJ.
You always have to give the
AKA.
I do. That's not my name, it's just the handle I use on Blue Sky. I want to clarify, it's not an alien.
These are two separate pseudonyms.
No, it's not a pseudonym, it's just an ad.
No, it's a pseudonym. It's like your pen name.
Like,
at the end of your treatise, it's, Stewie Griffin DJ.
Every time I hear Stewie Griffin DJ, I want to do like a record scratch thing.
Yeah, I should get that loaded up. Have a little record scratch.
That's the dumbest old millennial fucking thing. Did you recognize what it was in reference to from the beginning? Yes. Okay. I fucking watched that fucking show. Yeah, hell yeah. When I was in high school. Shout to Spencer's Gifts for making that t-shirt. The
Stewie Griffin DJ t-shirt.
Yeah. We talked about this whatever, I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself. We talked about this in the last free list.
No, you're
whatever.
good. No,
pay for the Patreon if you want to hear this full story.
Yeah, if you want to hear the full story about Children of Men. Yes, give me money.
Josiah.
Yes, and for this free feed, of course, we're talking about Children of Men, which is one of Chris and I's favorite movies, and Alien will decide how he feels about
it. This is maybe the most depressing film that could technically be described as a Christmas movie.
Yes.
Oh yeah. I was thinking about you could also call 400 Blows a Christmas movie because that also takes place around the holidays.
I think this is a more I was going to say it's a more depressing movie than 400 Blows, but 400 Blows does not have a hopeful ending, and as bleak as Children of Men is. Yes. Children of Men starts out really bleak, and then it gives you a glimmer of hope. As 400 Blows is just like, how childhood sucks? It's going to suck later, too. It's kind of this forever, buddy.
Shout out to France, guys. Quick shout out to France.
Yeah, shout out to Truffaut, New Wave, etc.
What is Children of Men, and who directed it, and when did it come out, and what's the plot of it?
Yeah.
It's directed by Alfonso Cuarón. I'm going to need to look up when it came out. Hello, Internet.
2006. I actually know that off the top of my head.
There we go. That's awesome. It's based on a novel by P.D. James. And the novel is definitely worth reading. It is quite different from the book. But this is one of the cases where, like, I don't think that they're worth comparing.
Cuarón quite different, right?
Yeah. Cuarón makes a lot of different artistic choices than P.D. James does in the book. It's sort of like Annihilation, right? Annihilation the book, Annihilation the movie, both very good. Not really the same thing.
Mm-hmm. They have different things on their mind. I agree with that. And yeah, because I've not read the Children of Men book, but I understand that the religious themes are a lot more explicit. And what makes, I think, them interesting is it took a really, really religious film and kind of like sublimated that, you know, like kind of pulled out the explicit religiousness to it, but kept like the essence of like the emotional values that are being communicated with those religious, you know, metaphors or whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Does that make any sense?
Well, yeah. And I think that there are so many moments in the movie where that, like, the religious symbolism is there everywhere, constantly, but you have to be looking to see it. You have to be watching the movie carefully to pick up on what they're doing. And I think that is really clever. It's really smart filmmaking. It's really smart writing. And there are ways that it subverts kind of traditional symbolism and uses contemporary symbolism, like contemporary symbolism of the time to like, you know, further religious themes. We'll get into it. Like when they come into Bexhill, there is like, oh boy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest achievements of this movie is its set design. Like, you know, I think that's it's been talked about a lot, but I mean, I didn't, until I was like reading up on it for this episode, I didn't realize just how insane some of the set design stuff is, you know, because that like most of the, you know, all the graffiti, all the stuff you see on the walls, Cuarón had this mentality of like set design can only put something if you can find a real life referent for it. So like, if you're going to spray paint a slogan on the walls or whatever, you better like show me a wall, you know, picture of a wall in Palestine where this is also the case. Because
what's the film about?
Oh yeah. What's the film? Well, the thing is, it's like one of the most discussed films ever that it always feels like weird to walk through. But yeah, so the plot is that it is set in a world where there is no longer children being born. There's some sort of fertility crisis, and it's been, I believe, 18 years into that?
It's 18. Baby Diego died just after his 18th birthday.
Right.
That's what the film opens up on. Spoiler.
Yeah, we're going to spoil the whole movie.
It's like the first thing that happens in the movie.
But we're also going to spoil the whole movie, just a warning.
Yeah, I mean, just full spoiler warning. We're like, turn this off. Turn this off if you don't want to know what happens in this movie.
You should probably also watch it before you get into this, because like the plot is like straightforward, but also like somewhat convoluted. It's basically it's like basically going from like one location to another location. But
it's a film long fetch quest.
Yeah. Well, okay. Here's the thing: is that the only critic I saw who was talking about how video gamey it was. Well, okay, I didn't go on a comprehensive read of like all of the major critics, so I should clarify. I was something that actually Armand White picked up on, was that he said that it felt very video gamey, and I agree. It actually is very video gamey. Like once I realized that, and even like the long takes that it's known for.
Well, yeah, that could be video gamey. Yeah,
right, because there aren't, as of course. Me and Josiah have discussed before amongst ourselves not recording, so I don't know why I'm saying, of course. Gus Van Sant was the first person really to connect the dots of imagining the camera of a third-person video game as a film camera, and was talking about the fact that it follows the characters but never cuts. That's kind of the definitive filmic
but also follows them at a weird place like from behind or something like that,
and above,
than,
yes,
like,
and above,
blocked out, from behind and above. Because you what is it? The movie Jerry, is that the one you're talking about that does that?
Gerry, yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting watch. Whatever, I'm getting a field of it now, but like, yeah, it does feel a little video gamey. That is true. Hold on, I just want to say this. I am aware this is one of both Chris and Josiah's favorite movies of all time. I think that's fair to say.
Yes.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
I think it is merely very good.
And we're going to have a screaming match about
match about whether it's an 8 or a 10.
Yeah.
I mean, you two can.
You're staying out of that.
I actually want to fight about it.
I'm just not willing to. I love this movie, and I don't.
I'm not angry.
No, I know you're not angry, but like I don't feel the need to defend it. You know what I mean? Like I don't. It's just one of those things. You know.
Hey, look, one of my favorite movies is Spring Breakers, and no one else thinks that's a 10. I'm the only person on earth who thinks that.
Yeah, look, it's a matter of taste.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so when the fishes assassinate,
Julian.
God damn it.
Julianne
it's been a week now. Julian, yeah. I noticed that also. Julianne Moore, was that in the original book? That is Julian. I didn't know. Whatever. I felt like that was.
I have not reread the book in a while, and so I cannot remember.
Yeah.
What role that character plays in the book.
Yeah.
Julian. Off the top of my head.
So they're the fishes. In retrospect, we understand this are trying to assassinate Julian as part of a power play in order to select a new leader for themselves, right? And here's my question: is that works as a reveal, and it moves the plot forward in a very effective way? Because as soon as they find out, they have to immediately go to a new location, and there's an amazing action scene where they're like moving they have to start a car by moving it down a hill, right? That's all great. That's all great. Okay, but if they were going to assassinate her, then why was their plan? Okay, we're going to have like a fake stop, and then they're going to drive backwards. And then there's going to be a motorcycle at the same speed going backwards, and it's going to be shooting from one moving vehicle into the other moving vehicle that's filled with people who are our allies and co-conspirators. That feels really absurd.
For me, yeah, that probably isn't the most effective way, but it's because it's a really cool scene.
But here's the thing: the defense. I'll give a perfect defense right now.
Yeah,
bro, it's badass.
It's badass. That's
there we go. You know, it is badass. It's the best scene in the entire movie.
Oh wow, you actually. Okay. So that's very interesting, and we have gone far afield of actually describing the plot of this movie. But
I remember.
Look, there's no babies. You got it, everybody.
But
you gotta go to the place.
But I do remember reading an AV Club like criticism of that specific scene. And
interesting.
And goddamn if I can't find it anymore. But they basically just talked about like, oh, for all its technical virtuosity, it just like leaves the viewer cold. And I'm like, brother, were you watching this fucking scene?
I think a fucking panic attack when that shit happened. I felt like I was gonna die.
Now here is now if I was gonna give a defense of the scene from a nerd
emoji standpoint.
Yeah. Well, no, yeah, from a nerd emoji, I'm pushing my glasses up and getting my buck teeth out standpoint, is that probably they didn't expect them to flee.
Oh, right. Gotcha. So right, okay.
And so probably
hold on, but the dude who's allied with them is the one driving, right? Julianne Moore is in the opposite side.
So probably,
isn't he aware that the assassination is going to happen?
Well, yes, but probably I think what the expectation is that the thing would come down, Luke would put it in reverse, and then like the trap would spring in such a way that they would like stop and be like, ah, and then Julian would get killed, and then they'd pull them out, and yada yada yada, and then
right, yeah.
Here we go, you know. Or it would just be a quick like somebody would get right up there, shoot Julian, and then they would get away.
Right, yeah. Okay, so that theory is that the assassination that we see is in and of itself a fuck up in a sense, like that again, and we're watching it get messed up.
Yeah, what ends up happening is that Theo is there to kick the door open and kill the assassants.
Right, which then complicates the entire thing.
Yeah, Theo is continually the fly in the ointment.
Then that's ballsy of Luke to just sit directly next to someone who's getting shot at. That is ballsy of him, but he is crazy, so he might just be like, "Yeah, do it, man. I don't care. It's for the movement."
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But yeah, and then the reveal after that when Luke just kills the police officers, and then you're like, "Oh no, these people are bad."
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the first moment where you're watching it and you go, "Oh no."
Damn, when he kills those cops, that is such a sick, like, punchline to that whole scene. It's like, oh, and then it's like, and then fuck you. Like,
But also, I took some notes on this. Like, this movie starts so goddamn hard.
It does.
So the opening scene of this movie, like, so let's walk through it. Fuck it. Yeah. Is Theo's character, the main character played by Clive Owens, is at like a shitty coffee shop or whatever, getting his coffee while he's watching on the news that the youngest person in the world has died. Because as I said, 18 years without children. And
so succinct. Such a good, succinct story.
And you're just suddenly like, okay, got it. You know, he gets his coffee, he steps out, he's sipping his coffee, and then a bomb goes off behind him. Terrorist attack. And it cuts immediately to Children of Men.
Hell yeah.
I'm sorry. But it's not just that. It's not just he's sipping his coffee, okay? He has paused by a trash can, put his coffee on the trash can, and he's pouring booze into it. Right, like he is clearly being like,
establishing.
Oh my god!
It's establishing the character at the same time.
He is like, shit, man. I am like,
damn, this movie does rule.
I am rough with it. Okay, and he's about to put his lid back on, and there's also been so many of these establishing shots where, like, if you know shit about cars, you are watching this and you are just seeing a bunch of Franken cars drive past. Okay, it's cars with like Renault fronts and Peugeot backs.
This is the set design shit, right?
And
it's amazing.
And everything looks like ass. And if you like, every time I watch, I see a new billboard in the background where I'm like, dang, right? And then the bomb goes off, and this lady walks out holding her fucking arm.
Yeah.
And you get the ringing ear tinnitus, and then it's Children of Men.
And then what does he do after that? He goes right to work.
He goes to work.
And what captures it better? I mean,
like, this is man.
This is why it's an amazing. I mean, part of why it's one of the greatest movies ever made to me, anyway, because of how much of it's hard to actually give a synopsis of the movie because so much of the information is communicated visually in an instant. It's cinema. You know what I mean? Like in an actual. Like, every aspect of it is delivering on something, you know?
And as a science fiction movie, as like that as its genre, it really exploits the best, like the most powerful elements of sci-fi, which is like it is through showing what is normal passively, forcing your imagination to fill in the gaps. And the horror of the film largely comes from punishing you through your own imagination, right? Of that every time someone dies, you realize that the stakes are so much higher than if somebody died in our world because there's a finite amount of people. People aren't getting replaced. Every single person that dies there's no one's coming to replace them. That's all the people they're ever going to be, motherfucker. Like,
and then on top of all this, right, you have the fertility crisis, but you have the refugee crisis going on in the movie. And this is, I think, one of the most important parts of the movie. Because
only Britain prevails.
Only Britain prevails. Yeah.
And I think one of the most prescient parts of the movie. It is something that I have been obsessed with. I think about this movie. This movie is my Roman Empire.
Hell yeah, dog.
I think about this movie constantly. I think about the idea of human beings not being on this planet almost constantly.
Yeah, right.
Almost constantly.
Yeah.
Well, it's happened before. It happened before.
And I am yet to be convinced that it wouldn't be better if it happened again.
Damn, you are Edelman pilled.
Edelman pilled.
But what I was going to say is that I think that did you notice that little thing? Okay, the only Britain prevails shit. Did you notice the specificity of the way that it's even phrased? Of that it's only Britain prevails. That means not Northern Ireland. So it's specifically
I didn't even catch that. Wow.
Yeah. So it's specifically even this like
but also even further
even in a post-colonial way, right? You know what I'm saying?
Even further specific to that, it's like it's referencing cities. It's referencing cities. It's not referencing countries.
Yeah.
And then it says only Britain remains. But like, but what happened to Birmingham?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What happened to Manchester? Exactly. What happened to Liverpool?
Yeah, and this is where the filling it in with your. That's why it's good, like horror. Like, but you're filling in like what's happening to all these other cities.
Yeah, Theo's in London. Theo's in London, and Bexhill is a real place in England, and it's on the southern coast of England on the Channel, right? But like, we don't go north. We don't know shit about what happened north of London. We don't know anything.
And all the detail is so amazing. There's a part, even in that scene we just discussed, where they construct there was a tower that is now constructed but didn't exist at the time that they knew would exist in this universe. But then there were plans to construct it in real life. And so they're like, oh, well, it will be built by the time it's 2025.
Oh, shit.
And so what they did...
The Shard?
Yes, yeah. And so they had it, so they built a model, they got the plans for it, and built a model of the Shard and inserted it into the skyline of the film. I have been to London. I did not notice it was inserted. It is so perfect.
That's
this is the thing about the set design. It's amazing, and also like I think since so much of it is practical, when they do use like CGI or whatever, they're able to do it so well it's seamless. Like the baby is CGI'd in the birth scene.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
damn, I didn't even know that. It was so fucking good.
I didn't know that until I have a Blu-ray with special features on it, and they have a whole special feature on how they animate.
You're telling me something a detail about newspapers that I think.
Okay, yeah. Let's move.
Let's go forward in the plot. Yeah,
because this will get us to it. But yeah, so Clive Owen's character Theo, he goes to work. In the background, we're seeing just immigrants are getting rounded up in the background. This is daily life now.
Everybody's freaking out because this like kid died.
Yeah, goes to his job.
Last one to leave Britain, turn the lights out.
But yeah, so goes to his job, and then let's see, we're introduced to he ends up leaving work early, and we're introduced to his good friend, who's kind of like the old hippie, played by, of course, Michael Caine.
Wait, can I go back for 1 second? Can we go back for 1 second? I just want to say that one of my favorite little details of the film is that everyone at work is crying because baby Diego died, and he just kind of looks around and goes to the office, and he's like, yeah, I feel like really bad because of this. Can I like work the rest of the day from home? The guy's like, all right, fine.
Yeah, that scene's great.
It really is. Everyone else is clearly like suffering and not able to do their job, and he has like the wherewithal to be like, well, shit, I can get out of work today. I'm going. I can lie because I don't care about this kid.
And so, of course, what do you do when you get a day like out of work? Well, you go hang out with your best friend and get blasted
and smoke weed, dude.
Smoke weed. And then like this is what I mean by the amazing set design that just like will communicate shit. Is like on his way driving to Michael Caine's house. Well, I don't remember his character's name. You just pass by like livestock being burned, and so you just are able to communicate. Yeah, and there's pestilence too.
Yeah, which really is like leaning towards the idea that this is like an Old Testament style punishment. Right?
Yeah.
War, pestilence, famine.
Yeah,
it's all there.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, I just want to say briefly that this is when we start to get introduced to the soundtrack of the film, which is kind of diverse, but involves a lot of 60s and 70s rock, I noticed. Mm-hmm. And that's interesting because like the whole film is sort of about we'll get into this later, but about a rear facingness, about kind of an obsession with the past. And even this contemporary songs, they do a very clever thing of being like, oh, remember this came out in like 2002, and it's some like, garage rock revival song. But like there's a lot of like 60s and 70s rock in it, with kind of even the implication that it's like, in my mind, that like in this world, people are like nostalgic even further, are kind of going back to this like earlier era of hope and change in order to cope.
I don't know if it's too early to drag Mark Fisher in here, but of course,
no, we can do it.
Yeah, I think it's time. It also feels like it's the most obvious thing because I think Fisher is the reading of this movie for a lot of people. So easy to bring in, but we're seeing an early thing of Fisher's idea of like hauntology, that like our culture is kind of in a place of like decline, inability to imagine something new or beyond itself, that it's just going back to old forms of rebellion or whatever, which also perfectly reflects Michael Caine's character, who is the like stereotype of the old guy hippie, the guy who was a hippie in the 70s, and now he's just like a weed smoking, I think Zizek in like some interview about the movie describes him as like this crass old man with the long hair, and who's representing the values of like this different era still,
and like a political cartoonist, and like you can like the glimpses that you get of his political cartoons, which apparently won awards, are like the dumbest shit you've ever seen.
They are political cartoons. Like, okay. Like the thing is that like I was definitely in that scene, especially. I was struck by how much of an Iraq war movie this is, like how much of a war on terror era movie this is.
Oh yeah.
And that's the thing that's fascinating to me about it, is that it's set in even the future to us now, but it feels so. In that way, it feels. I don't want to say dated because it's not in a bad way, but it definitely feels of its time in that way, where you're like, damn, it truly is 2006, dude. Like,
although
we are in Bush.
Even then, that's kind of another aspect of the movie I really like, is because I think it was imagining forward from the logic of what like the Bush era was onward, and so even then, amongst his relics is opposition to the Iraq War. Like Padge's like the same as like end the Vietnam War, there's end Iraq or whatever.
Yeah, and also like, have we really escaped the Bush era?
Well, I mean, no. I mean, I think that it's the kind of thing, it's the hauntological thing, right? Of that we go forward and then we go back and then we go forward and then we go back. I think that it's, we had kind of a 9/12 moment when Russia invaded Ukraine, and there was all of a sudden this sort of secondarily placed, sublimated nationalism, rather, placed on Ukraine, and like having like little Ukrainian girls sing at like Mets games and stuff like that.
Sure,
like this frenetic obsession with this specific conflict, and then again after October 7th with the Hamas attack on Israel, and then the response to that, and each time, I want to say it's not the same thing. It's that each time it To quote George Lucas, it rhymes. You know, saying it's the same type of thing.
There's a 9/11 script that we all have. You know,
yes, exactly. We just keep remaking it over and over again in different locations.
This is so a different mention, but there's one of my favorite like active DIY like emo bands, Home Is Where, has this song called Every Day Feels Like 9/11, and I think about that line all the fucking time because there is nothing that captures what it feels like to be just atrocity footage on my Twitter every day, just like the kind of background noise of constant carnage that it feels like the last few decades is, as opposed other than just every day feels like 9/11 again and again and again. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's like, I mean, I would say for better in this country, but that's like, you know, what the availability of footage of brutality has gotten us, you know, as far as like protesting the police and stuff. But like, yeah, man, it does like kind of feels like shit.
Well, is it that every day is 9/11 now, or was every day 9/11 forever? And
there's a degree that that's also true.
That's what I'm saying is we've got the availability of the footage now, and we can see it, and like we can't. Like, it's harder to ignore.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So some people do still successfully ignore it, and in some sense, I envy them, because I would like to feel better about the place I live in.
Well, I mean, we're all ignoring something just because there is literally not enough hours in the day to understand every relevant conflict in detail. It's even if you wanted to, you're always going to have, you know, that's what always bothers me so much about, like, it's a very stock answer, right? If you're talking about like a very hack social media thing to do is somebody is posting over and over again about whatever their conflict that they know a lot about is, whether it's the Russia-Ukraine war, or whether it's Israel and Palestine, or whether it's Azerbaijan and Armenia. And then the epic smart guy will come in and say, curious, I didn't see you saying anything when this other conflict was happening. And it's like, well,
you live in a society, yet you participated.
It's just like, you literally can't. It's not even that, like, oh, some people are able to look away and I'm not. It's that, like, even if you don't want to look away, you have to, because your eyes can only point in one direction at once. You know what I'm saying?
You're not omnipresent.
Exactly. You're still, your ignorance is guaranteed no matter what you do.
Which right? I do think actually kind of wraps back into the plot, because
I
Jasper,
think so too. Yeah.
Because like Jasper and Theo are talking, and like Theo, we find out, had been like this big like activist type, and had been like a protester, and had been like, you know, kind of a big like lefty guy, but like, man, you can't keep your eye on everything all at once, and like eventually life just grinds the shit out of you.
Yeah,
you know.
Can I say this
later? But you know, anyway.
Can I say this? The person he reminded me. This is maybe me being crazy. He kept reminding me of Van Jones.
Okay.
Yeah, of like that. Like Van Jones is like an ex-Marxist Leninist who now, like, his job is that he just like goes on TV and is like, look, like, damn, Biden's trying hard, and then he cries. Or just like that black-pilled like media personality where you're just like, yeah, I used to be like insanely radical, and now I'm just like that's a whole archetype of people, right?
Right, but it's kind of like the movie is also dealing with this kind of lose-lose situation, because you either are Theo and you're going to work and life sucks and you just become cynical about the background noise of carnage around you, or you're Michael Caine, who is happier but also is not going to change the world. He can't.
Or you're Julian and you get shot to fucking death.
That also.
Or you're Jasper's wife, whose name I cannot remember right now.
Yes, yeah.
It is heavily implied is in a vegetative state because of government action.
Yeah, from being tortured. Yeah. That's like heavily implied.
Especially with the set. Like that's the other thing that could happen to you. It's like Jasper is over here growing his weed, tending to his wife, who basically cannot do anything for herself, but who was a like big human rights campaigner. And again, like I said, it's heavily implied that she was tortured to the point of being essentially comatose.
Yeah.
Or you're Theo and you just say,
up.
fuck it, man.
Right.
I got to make money to live because that's where we are.
And in this film, Cuarón manages to do the impossible and imagine a society that's as evil as Canada is right now, where
Quietus.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, man! Can't wait till Phil hears this.
I mean, that initially didn't. I was like, what? Like, that was confusing me. It didn't make any sense to me. But then actually, I read the Wikipedia summary for the book. And in the Wikipedia summary for the book, they pointed out that, like, no, dude, it's economics. Like, the older your population is, like, the more strain is put on the working population in order to sustain them. So it actually would be an optimal strategy to deliberately kill old people in order to keep the economy strong.
Yeah, encourage them to commit suicide.
Yeah, like,
the quietus.
And once I realized that, I was like, oh, fuck, like, that's another level. Okay, so this is the kind of interesting thing about it is that, like, I can totally see why Fisher grabbed to this film, because in general, beyond even the idea of sort of the impotence being metaphorical and about a societal impotence, right, or creative impotence in a very broad sense, it also is about this thing that's going on throughout capitalist realism, which is this critique of his advisor Land's thoughts, which then later coagulate into right-wing accelerationism. Of that, he's criticizing the idea throughout the book. Is criticizing the idea that capitalism is fast and efficient, and is pointing out all the ways that is untrue. And it's amazing that like this film is all about all of those ways that it's like, well, because of the fact that we're in a capitalist economy, now it's like, well, the logic of the market means that we need to pressure old people into killing themselves. So much of this film, hey, there is a solid like 10 minutes of this film that are based around bureaucratically getting the correct papers in order to move from one location to the next location. Like, it's pure Fisher.
Like it's like a good chunk, because like that's what
it's a good chunk of the movie.
Yeah.
Wait, does he get kidnapped after this?
Yes, this is where
he comes back into town. He comes back into town, and when he comes back into town, that's when the fishes get him.
Yes, so the fishes are a radical pro-immigration, defending the refugees, militant group that, I don't know, feels kind of like IRA coded. A little bit or something.
They're interesting. They're a little arch, if I'm going to be real. They're like slightly arch.
Also, okay, so like Fishes is at least in the book, it's a little bit sublimated in this, but you can catch it from the name from Luke's name. It's specifically a reference to like the Sermon on the Mount and Jesus doing the fishes and shit. Distributing aid to people who need aid. And then in the book, the like principal members of the fishes are named after the gospel writers, regardless of gender. They are referred to after the names of the gospel writers.
Okay.
So Luke is one of them. The movie kind of messes with that a little bit, because Julian is obviously not like one of the gospel writers. At least if this is my memory of the book being correct.
That sounds right. Yeah.
But it's like the name of the group is meant to be a biblical allusion. They are essentially, well, I mean, they're end time zealots. They're end time zealots. And honestly, the original Christians were kind of end time zealots.
Yeah. Well, and how could you not be an end times person in this movie, in this context? And also, if the metaphor does stretch to our reality with this movie, it also it speaks to, well, why is almost everyone got an end times mentality now? it feels like. You know what I mean? Like why are there increasingly millenarian movements springing up? It seems, why are there QAnon kind of end times conspiracies happening all the time?
Well, okay, can I get into this? Actually tees right up. I looked into I mentioned it earlier, but I wanted to kind of look into sort of conservative responses to the film. And so I looked at who is both ironically and unironically my favorite Christian film critic, Armand White. Non-ironically, some would say. And one of the things that he said, I thought was pretty interesting. Now, because it's Armand White, a lot of it is him like very bizarrely like being like, this isn't as good as Bonfire of the Vanities. He literally says that, like just like weird shit where you're like, what? Like I don't even know what you're talking about.
It's needlessly it's needlessly contrarian. So be aware of that before he reads this.
But why does that matter?
But here's the section that I think is interesting. He says, the political antipathy of Iraq war protesters and war on terror skeptics is what drives this pretentious action flick. It panders to a decadent yearning for apocalypse as if to confirm recent fear and resentment about loss of political power. V for Vendetta's mistake was not recognizing that a sense of self-righteous self-annihilation was the new mood. And Cuarón, a true hack, is nothing if not market savvy.
Fuck Armand White.
Now, brutally harsh review, but the phrase decadent yearning for apocalypse, I think, is like an interesting line of criticism for the movie, right? That he says elsewhere in the review that he views it as a liberal response to the West going like right after like the 2000 election and the 9/11 terror attacks, and to sort of conflate that feeling of impotence with like a literal impotence and with the end of the world.
And see, right. and I think like my response to that is what I think that he is correctly getting is the way that I think a lot of critics at the time saw this movie. A lot of the liberal critics that, it was a beloved movie among like liberal critics, but it wasn't, it's kind of cult following or whatever has been a much more slow process of it being kind of considered a modern classic or whatever. Right. And I don't see this movie as just being like, oh, this is the death wish of like, the liberal impulse, this is what happens when the Democrats and Labor are no longer in power. Oh no. I don't think that's the message, but I absolutely believe that is the message that I do think a lot of the liberal critics probably took away from the movie, but it's a lot more than that. And I mean, Cuarón was like driving himself crazy reading Zizek while making this movie. Yeah. So like, I highly doubt he's making the movie with that liberal mindset in mind. But
Edward's lost? Like, I don't think he's thinking that.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I don't. This is not a yearning for apocalypse. It's this. I mean, I can see. Okay, I can see how you could. I could see how if you were of the sense that like if you were a liberal. Right. And you were like, man, it would super be great if all of this crap happened or whatever. But like, and like the world just broke down and human beings weren't here anymore, because at least that would mean that conservatives weren't in charge. But that is not the way that I read this movie. I genuinely, I mean, we've already kind of talked about it a little bit. For all that this movie is like, and we're going to get to it, but like, it's an Advent story.
Yeah.
It's a Messiah story, but it is also very Old Testament prophetic. And not in the sense of like telling the future, but like spelling out the ways in which you are fucking up right now. Like, hey, there are no kids. It's because you're fucking killing them. You're killing the kids. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you want this, you want the human race to continue? Well, great. Give kids health education and stop fucking killing them. Right? Give kids health care. Give parents, a proper safety net. Do all of these other things. This movie is like prophetic in like an Abrahamic sense. Right? Like in a full like Isaiah sense, like giant beard, wild in the wilderness, shaking your fist at God sense. Like this movie,
they're like Egyptians getting the plagues.
You guys are doing this right now, and I am shoving it in your face.
Yeah. And I think like Cuarón was mostly thinking of this as a climate change movie when he was making it. And so, yeah, that's a very real sense where it's, it's not just that, the Democrats lost. It's that the world's about to be on fire.
Yeah. Do you want to get into this, Josiah, about how this is just like actually the most accurate depiction of what Britain specifically will be like during climate change? Like,
I mean, basically, Yeah, basically. And, Or go ahead, Chris.
I'm sorry. Just piggybacking off what Alien just said, there was literally just a climate forecast thing that came out, and the UK is going to be the best place to live in all of Europe.
Britain soldiers on.
Britain soldiers on. I hate that country.
Absolutely no idea.
I'm joking.
How badly all of those gammons are going to react to all of those people wanting to come to a place that's nice to live.
Exactly. And so, that's why this is a movie that's just continues to be present, is because I think the big issues of our time are like climate change and immigration. Those are going to be some of the most defining aspects of the 21st century. And this movie just happened to really have its finger on the pulse of that. And I think it was also through a lot of thought experiment type stuff. So moving through the plot here real quick, the fishes kidnap Theo, and Julianne Moore's character, Julian, is Theo's former wife, lover. It's not really quite spelled out. They had a kid together. The kid died, and then they eventually split up. And during the scene that, he gets kidnapped, and the walls are lined with newspapers in this kind of interrogation room or whatever he's in, right? And the set design for this was fucking wild, because I didn't know this, that to do that, they wrote all those newspapers, all those articles, all those headlines, and the set design team had to sit down with the philosophy Cuarón was approaching with this, the politics he's had, and talking with a lot of consultants, make up what they thought the next 20 years was going to look like.
That's dope, right? Isn't that
cool? Is, and it also is the horror that Alien was talking about. It comes out in the scene really well too, because you can just see something like Seattle destroyed by nuke. And you just know that you don't, no context, no reason. I just know that happened.
What led to that? Who knows what led to that?
And the set designers do know, which is wild. So this is what I mean by the set is telling a story throughout it.
There's just in every single frame of this movie is just so meticulously done, and I think there's ways that you can kind of critique a little bit of his hyper preciousness around certain things, and certain set pieces and whatever. But man, I just the way that he approached the very lived in nature of everything that was happening in this movie is it feels near insurpassable. The movie feels like an incredibly lived in movie.
Absolutely.
It's like you're walking into a real thing. Everything, the cars look beat up, their clothes look tattered, but tattered in a way that you're still trying to look nice.
Yeah, but it's also that they were intentionally trying to make everything look like if culture stopped in 2006 when they were making it. And so just try to take all that's new then, make it look as old and beat up and shitty as possible to give it this feeling like something happened right in 2006 and nothing has happened since, in a sense. You know what I mean? Culturally.
But him in the interrogation. And then there aren't very many like genuinely funny bits, but when they do the interrogation and then he and Julian talk and she gives him the offer and whatever, and then they're dropping him off and we'll be watching you all the time. Geez, your breath stinks. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does.
That's a good line. That's a good interaction.
They send him on
Charlie Hunnam, like you can see him go it's like be like
yeah.
Does my breath stink?
So what they've asked him to do though is get
they send him on a fetch quest to go to do an escort mission.
Yeah, basically, right, exactly. It is that he needs paperwork to get this migrant girl. We don't know anything about her yet. Get her through customs or whatever, and hopefully, it's a very simple request. And he's like a bureaucrat now, so he could do it. So he goes. He talks to is it his cousin? I don't remember who it is. This is one of the most iconic scenes in the movie as well. This is the one that Fisher also references in Capitalist Realism.
Yep.
Because yes, so he visits his cousin. He's rich guy who's just been collecting art.
Well, so his cousin is technically like he's a government minister. So he's like, he's rich. He's not just collecting art. He is the minister of the Ark of the Arts. So basically, it's a government ministry that goes around the world like grabbing as much shit as possible to try to save it.
Yeah.
But like, hey, what does that fucking sound like?
It's the British Museum.
It is the British Museum.
Right?
And it's also like the beauty of the scene is the sense of like seeing the violence that ripping something out of its context does to the art. You know, like the art doesn't mean anything anymore. They're having dinner, chatting about business in front of Guernica.
And also like Michael, like David is there, and you like you just said, it's ripped out of context. David doesn't have a shin.
Right.
Like one of the statue of David's shins is gone.
Right. It's
been ripped out of context.
And there's just a sense that like, what does this art matter? And then of course the most important like line in that is when he confronts his cousin about this, like, how do you feel about all this art? No one's going to see this in, like 20 years, 100 years, whatever. He goes, I try not to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I don't know, borders on, you mentioned like some of the only funny lines in this. It's really not a funny line, but it's really dryly funny. And it's
just real.
I don't know.
It's just like what you would actually, like, I think of what I would do in this scenario. And in reality, like if I'm being very charitable to myself, I'd be like, I'd be a fish or something. But in reality, I'd probably just be like, I don't know. I'm just trying to go to Pret a Manger. Like I've heard they've got a new egg funnel. Like it's pretty, whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's like that would be what everybody.
Yeah, we'd all just be going to our shitty jobs, or if we're lucky enough to be retired, go and fucking smoke pot until the world ends.
I do want to make a brief comment about that.
My like if there's ever an actual zombie apocalypse strategy, or if there's ever an actual zombie apocalypse, my strategy is just immediate suicide. I have no skills, and I'm not gonna eat people.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'm not being one of those. So just immediate, get it done with. Like I'm not hanging around.
Can I make a comment about that scene?
Go
that
for
I don't
it.
think you guys commented on. You know that guy's son?
Oh
yeah, your cousin's son. With like the weird, he has the weird typing thing.
Playing
like
video games with his fingers.
Fingers, yeah. That kid sucks.
Okay. I would like to hear more about this.
Nah, it just blows. Like he's like a shitty kid. And he's also like 20, so he's like it's like what? You're under 8, you're over 18. You're like way too old to be acting this way, man. There's no one on earth left who can be playing video games at the table. Like, fuck off. You suck.
Thank you for that, Alien. I think you're right.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I have literally always viewed that particular character because he has no lines. It's just Alex. It's Theo's.
I love that character.
Son. I have always viewed that particular character in that like in that scene essentially as a victim. This is like to me, and so I like pity. I have always pitied that character every time I've watched the movie, because what it seems to me, because Theo's cousin tells him, Alex, take your medicine. Alex, take your medicine. And he's like resisting his dad, and then he yells at him. And then he takes his medicine very sullenly, you know? And so
Lord knows what is going on.
Well, but like the way that I have always interpreted that scene is that what's happening here is that Theo's cousin is terrified that his son is going to die of like literally anything.
Oh, interesting.
That's an interesting way
and has kept that and has kept him cloistered and has kept him drugged the fuck up so that he can't do anything dangerous so that he can't die. And so now this kid is stuck in this mansion full of priceless art. The only thing he can do is like twiddle around with a Rubik's cube with his fingers. Like that's to me that character who has absolutely no lines is intensely pitiable, because it represents like the fear of losing the future, of like parents being terrified that their kid is gonna die and being willing to make that kid's life terrible in order to ensure that it doesn't die. Like it doesn't seem like it is so pale. It doesn't seem like that kid has ever been outside.
That's an interesting reading.
Ever.
I love how we got two different, drastically different readings.
Well, no, I think that's an interesting reading. I hadn't thought of it that way. Like the way I thought of it was, I guess maybe what it like is structurally in the script of that. It felt sort of in reference to like when you go over a relative's house you haven't met in a long time, and there's like a ton of tension, and it's like, all right, something really weird's going on, but I'm not invested enough in these people to actually untangle what it is. So, like, I'm just going to shut the fuck up. Like,
yeah, I mean, it could also be that, but like, I just like the way that I have always approached that was just like that is like a child who has always been under the thumb of a domineering parent who is terrified to lose it.
Yeah, that's interesting, huh?
And is just like drugged into oblivion.
So. Real quick, we should probably move faster.
Let's go.
So let's like do it a little more rapidly, and then I think there'll be still plenty to talk about. But
he gets these papers.
He talks to his cousin. He gets the papers. But the exception, the only thing about the papers is he is going to have to be with whoever has the papers. So he is now going to have to travel with this migrant girl.
Yes, and this is where Theo becomes the fly in the ointment for the rest of the plot.
Yeah.
And this is where Theo becomes Joseph.
That's true. In the nativity scene. Yes, because so then of course they are driving in the how does this happen? So he ends up driving with the migrant girl and then the fishes and Julianne Moore. This is the scene we talked about at the very beginning. This is one of the most I think iconic scenes of this whole movie, because it's a long 4-minute shot.
Yeah.
You know, that's set, and it starts in a car and it leaves the car, and it's just wild. But it starts out as a really warm moment where you're seeing these characters. You're seeing Theo interacting with Julianne, and like this sense that like an old romance kind of rekindling, whatever. You see that kind of building, and everyone kind of laughing and enjoying it, and then flaming car gets pushed onto the road to stop them from driving. They break a huge gang comes out, and they shoot Julianne Moore's character, and then the camera is following then the camera is
Chris is making a video game playing motion with his hand.
Yes. Because then, of course, you suddenly have backing up, and so they're driving the car in reverse, and it's wild. It's great action. It's a great action scene. It's amazing.
Yeah, it really is.
And so they get back to it's kind of rural house that the fishes are using, And this is where we kind of find out what's going on here. And pushing through without going through beat by beat how this happens, we understand that the migrant girl is pregnant. And that makes her the only pregnant person in the world. Like this is an impossible child.
An immaculate conception, some might say.
It's Christmas, everybody. And and also that the fishes set up Julianne Moore's character getting killed. And that this was done as a power grab. The fishes want to use the baby for political purposes as she wants to escape and go to the Human Project.
Yep.
Which is going to be, this is kind of represents the future in a lot of ways. I don't know. Yep. The Human Project.
The idea of the Human Project is like the weakest conceptual point of the movie, because it's like these scientists on the ocean who are gonna do good things, and it's like, man, okay.
Yeah,
right.
they are.
Yeah, you see, it's like the literal plot is probably the weakest stuff of that. Like the trying to explain how this all makes sense is like the hardest stuff in the movie.
I think so.
What works the most is just thinking about it and internalizing the messaging and the you know what I mean?
Yeah, because the thing is, the Human Project doesn't like it. That
makes sense.
It doesn't make sense. No, it's the religious impulse of the book coming through, though. It's because the Human Project is just an eschatological thing in a sense. Like it represents the revelation, the apocalypse, the new moment, the unveiling, and like in that sense of apocalyptic, right? It just represents the next thing. The boat is literally called the Tomorrow. It's
that shit was corny.
You don't like that? I like that.
I think it's great. Personally,
I do understand it's pretty didactic, but I
sorry, just additional tiny thing that like I do think is kind of important and also ties into like Theo as Joseph is like every time you see an animal interact with Theo, they fucking love him. So like
that's an interesting little thing. Yeah.
Damn.
So like when they first get to like the compound of the fishes, there's a little kitten that tries to climb up his pants.
Oh, and there's the dogs. There's the dogs there too that they say they hate everyone, but for some reason
dogs
like
bark at everyone, and they never make a noise for Theo because they like him. They just instinctively like him. Every time Theo encounters an animal, the animal is nice to him and is like, "Hey, you're cool." Every time in the entire movie, it's a really nice detail. I mean, I don't really know how much it adds like textually to it, but it's just something like with repeated watches, you start to notice like, oh man, animals never freak out around him. They're just always like, hey, that's my dude.
Maybe this is beyond the scope of the movie, but and this is possibly just me being insane and reading things that aren't into it. Did anyone else read something like vaguely sinister into the Human Project? Like the fact that they're like this NGO that is like not attached to, like they're basically like seasteaders.
If I take it literally, then I agree with you. But in the context of the movie, that's not in my mind usually.
And the film doesn't seem to see that as the case.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was shading at, like a little bit earlier, where it's like it's a bunch of scientists on the sea, and we're supposed to trust them. But
it's like Galt's Gulch, basically.
They maybe think of the Institute in Fallout 4.
But it does the text of the film does seem to shade enough that they're both like kind of mythical and people don't really think they exist, and also that there is enough evidence of their existence that people believe that they are good.
So there's this
if that makes sense, you know.
Yeah, no, I actually absolutely know what you mean, and I think that's part of why I really one of the things that I like about this movie, even though I agree that like on a literal level that's probably one of the weakest points, but it's the mythological nature of the Human Project before it pays off that it's real that sticks with me. So there's this There's this Polish post-apocalypse movie I highly recommend called Obi Oba, The End of Civilization. And it's like all sent in this like bunker underground the whole time. And those who are in charge have made up that there's going to be a ship that like comes and saves them one day. So everybody believes that this ark is going to arrive, but everyone at the tops know they made that up. And nuclear apocalypse outside, everyone's going to die in here, but we're just going to all believe that it's going to happen. And then at the end of the movie, the spaceship they made up arrives.
Oh, dude.
And I love that so much.
Yo, that shit is so hyperstitional.
I know.
Damn, we are getting back to CCRU. This is CCRU headquarters.
Well, that's because you're here. We can't not talk about that stuff. But no, and that's kind of how the Human Project to me feels in this too, where it's more about you're like, this isn't true. Hope isn't possible. There isn't a group of benevolent people out there doing any good. And then it's like, no, it's happening. Actually, the new world is coming. It will exist. And that's the affirmation of the movie that I really like, is that hope in the face of hopelessness. But yeah, anyway,
sure. We find out that the Human Project bad. Theo goes and talks to Key, and
the fishes are bad.
Fish is bad. The Human Project good.
Human Project good.
Human Project good. Fish is bad. Fish is bad. Human Project good. Theo goes to talk to Key, and why am I blanking on the name of the nurse?
With the
haircut.
Yeah, the bad haircut. What's her name? She's awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah,
they escape.
One of the more dated aspects of the movie is the hair. There would never be a far left organization now that would let a white person have dreads.
Man, dude, that was sus even then.
I don't know, man. I was a child. I don't know.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, even then, I was like, I don't trust white people. That's not what you're supposed to, like. That's not what your hair does.
I'm sorry,
I don't know, man. Maybe I'm.
Yeah, I'm trying to find.
Maybe that's like my inner conservative scold or something. I don't know. I'm just like, yeah, you shouldn't wear your hair like that.
I think is it Miriam? Is that the name?
Miriam,
of the character?
Yes,
okay, there we go.
Wait, hold on. And that's obviously also that's also a biblical reference.
That's another nativity thing, yeah.
Yep.
Or Jesus thing, yeah.
Mary's sister.
Well, and also, I mean, if you want to talk about beating over the head with nativity thing, the scene where she reveals that she's pregnant to Theo is in a barn.
Dad, what you wanted to talk about? Cows and titties.
It rules.
Yes. No, that rules. Like, I kind of like how on the nose a lot of it is.
I do
too. That really is fine. Like,
yeah, no, I really like the no. Although it's not subtle at all. But yeah, so they escape this farmhouse and get chased out for another one of the best sequences in this movie. Most of the two of the best sequences in this movie have cars. And it's them trying to escape while getting chased, and they can't get the car going, so they're like pushing it down a hill. It's such a stressful scene.
Yeah, and because they get out of the gate and they're like, shit. He's got to get out and push it. Oh, and he's barefoot.
So
he's barefoot, which then comes like that. Like pays off later because like he wears sandals for the rest of the movie. Or he's either barefoot or is wearing sandals for the rest of the movie, and it like pays off in a huge way later. I mean, it's just
great. So many good details. I know. So they how does this play out? So they return back to Michael Caine's character, Jasper, back to his home. They have, they spend the night there. They plan to eventually try to meet up with the Human Project. Supposedly is going to have a boat up in, I don't remember exactly where it's supposed to be, but it's essentially in, I have no better way of putting it. An immigrant concentration camp is like where they have to go.
Yep.
That is an entire city. That's another aspect as we get to
yeah. And like Bexhill is a real place in the UK, in England, and it's a city, and they like turned a city into a concentration camp.
Yeah, that shit is crazy. Yo, one of the most inspired aspects of the film is that you go to this concentration camp and that these people are just like freaking out and like starving and like trying to like get by inside of like an abandoned bed and shit like that. It's like, oh, dude, like that's crazy. And it's so specifically British.
I don't want to jump ahead too far yet, but I will say that that the scene in the concentration camp in Brex Hill is the part that hit me the hardest this time round. And I will say,
yeah,
it hit me the hardest because of current events.
Yeah, it sucks.
Let's put it like bluntly. You have because of a terrorist attack, the military is descending on this concentration camp and killing everyone inside of it while they're there. And that's Gaza. I mean, I don't know if I need to spell that out, but the whole time I was watching this was a movie about Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
You know, toward the end. But before we get there, Jasper, you know, the fishes show up at the house as they leave and kill Jasper.
Well, but so before that, like Jasper has like concocted this plan with a prison guard at Bexhill.
Yeah, that's right.
Who buys weed from Jasper, and
what a dope character.
And they're all gonna go, and then the fishes come, and Jasper's like, okay, well, you guys have to get out of here. I'll stay behind. Then he gives his dog and his wife the suicide pills, and then he goes and gets executed. First, they shoot his hand off, and then they kill him. And Theo definitely has a like, what is the point of all of this kind of moment? He like yells, I think, at Miriam, because Miriam's like, it's for the best or something like that.
While they were hanging out and having a nice thing, they had a conversation where she had said everything happens for a reason. And so later on, after Jasper gets shot, Theo yells at Miriam, you know, why did that happen?
Yeah. What's the reason?
Yeah.
And he's furious. Rightfully so, honestly. I mean, what the fuck, God?
Yeah.
Jasper didn't do anything. He was just growing weed, hanging out.
He was just hanging out.
Yeah, so from there they go to an abandoned elementary school.
Another amazing scene.
I love the symbolism of it, because you get Miriam. We find out that Miriam was like a natal unit nurse, and she was one of the first people to start realizing that kids weren't being born anymore, because they were like looking out for their pre-books for, you know, OBGYN like consultants, and they were realizing like no one's coming in, like there aren't babies anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're just in this, you're in this elementary school where there should be kids. And they're just
there's a deer wandering around.
There's a deer that runs through, and
it's so sick.
Yeah, it's a great scene.
Shout out to that deer.
So at the elementary school is where the security guard for Brex Hill meets them, who Jasper is told he's supposed to say, you're a fascist pig to him. And that's how they know Jasper sent him. And so they come in and
say it again.
So Sid threatens them and pretends he doesn't know what's going on, and then he laughs.
He said you're a fascist pig.
I love that character.
God, put your face.
The thing is,
you remember him from Trainspotting?
Is he in Trainspotting? I didn't
He's
catch
Mother
that.
Superior in Trainspotting.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, but the thing is, I like Sid so much that also him being such a piece of shit sucks when it happens.
He's so evil. But it's like,
so bad.
But while we believe Sid is good, he helps them by having them all pretend to be migrants that he's taking into Brex Hill.
He truly is a fascist pig.
Truly is a fascist pig.
Yeah.
And so they end up in the rubble of. Did you say it was a bank? I couldn't quite tell what it was supposed to be. But where's the rubble that they end up?
I got the impression that it was meant to be a bank. Is that not true?
Yeah.
Just because it has that specific. I don't know what it's called, but that thing that's almost an awning that comes out. That's like,
It's a destroyed building.
Of some kind. Well, hold on. Before we go there, I want to comment really briefly that like the process of them going through being interred is so heinous. There's like visual references to Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo Bay,
like a specific Christ reference too. Like, I mean, it's obviously Abu Ghraib, but honestly, like
it's also it's also Christ crucified, and the this symbol of like literal just cages out in the open recurs throughout the film.
Miriam getting taken off the bus and then getting hooded and then having dogs sicked on her.
Yeah, that shit is brutal. It's like, damn, dude, and that's the end of that character.
But yeah, so they go into this abandoned building or whatever, and this is where Key gives birth to the baby. They meet up with a Romani woman in there as well.
Yeah, that's the thing that's interesting too, is that once you get in there, it really is. I expected it, because I hadn't seen the film before. I expected it to be like Guantanamo Bay or something, but then you get in there and it really is more like Gaza, where it's like there is like they go in and immediately people are running scams on them. They're like, "Hey, buddy, you need a place to stay." Like, I know a perfect place. Like, people are just rushing up to them to like rip them off of like the little that they have, and it's like, it's this ecosystem. It's this whole world.
Yeah.
It's like Gaza, but it's also explicitly referencing like the ghettos from World War II, which actually reminds me, way back in the beginning of the movie, in the same kind of scene that you're referencing, there's like the trains going by, and you can just see things getting thrown out of this tower block.
Yeah.
Like they did in the Holocaust.
Yeah. Did you notice the piles of bags as they were going in? They're throwing the bags in piles. I was like, oh man, you know what you're doing. That's the thing that's really interesting about the film, is that it really is collaging from history. Is that sort of what you referenced, Josiah, of that he was saying, like, I only want things that like have a referent. And it's just piling those onto you and sort of like really pushing your buttons of being like, well, maybe you're not emotionally attached to this thing, but I know one of these things is going to hit you where it fucking hurts. And like this is the stakes of, like, you know, if we read it as being about climate change, it's being like, what, like, it is like all of this shit, man.
It's the Holocaust. It's the Holocaust. It's Gaza. It's the Bosnian genocide. It's, you know, like it's all of these things.
Right. It's Belfast. I noticed some of that too. That there's some Northern Ireland stuff in there too.
Right.
You people disgust me.
Right.
I mean, that guy couldn't have been more like PSNI if he had tried to be.
Oh man.
God damn. So yeah, now we go into like she actually like there's a scene of her giving birth to the baby.
To the CGI baby, which is fucking wild.
Which looks excellent. And you know, it actually goes pretty well. It's like, damn, this actually, like, damn, we gave birth to
that part goes well.
In 18 years. They're like, damn, we did that shit. And then immediately it's so
everything
bad.
caves in. And so they go to sleep. The next morning they wake up. Sid has found out that that they are wanted, and so he's decided to turn them in for the money.
Yep.
And we also find out that overnight the fishes have done a terrorist attack, blowing open the wall to Brexhill.
Well, sorry, I just want to say also though, okay, so the fishes have come in, obviously they've come into Bexhill, but also it's very telling, again, not subtle, but like you do have to have some sort of like religious like acumen and like, you know, like ability to like understand what's going on here, because so when Sid like convinces, like he's like talking to Key, like show me what you got. And he and then he sees the baby and he goes, Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah.
Come on.
But it's like, okay, in one sense,
right, you got
that is how you'd react. You go, oh, Jesus Christ. That's a baby. But also,
I didn't catch that at all. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so yeah, they go outside. The fucking security guard is being such an asshole, and then is like immediately like, I'm going to take this baby as like a bargaining chip, essentially. Action sequence comes pursuantly where Theo fucking slams his head in like a badass. That looks sick.
With a battery. It is incredible.
And this is the beginning of like, if we've talked about a bunch of like the iconic big scenes. This whole sequence is my favorite in the entire movie.
It's the biggest set piece. By the way, did you notice what composition is playing? Because I recognized it immediately. What composition is playing for the majority of that sequence?
No,
it's Christoph Penderecki's. It's Christoph Penderecki's Threnody for the Victims of Hiroshima.
That's right. Yeah. I remember that being on one of the special features. I forgot about that. God, it's amazing. Yeah, so this is the thing. It's
crazy.
It's like a wild action scene, but it is also an action scene that has such emotion that I have such a hard time putting. So it's descended into chaos. because the military is descending on here and just killing everyone, and then you have the fishes there, and then you have like what appears to just be a jihadist movement that had been building up.
I love that detail
out in there.
That's an awesome detail. I love that shit.
Again, though, one of the things that made it really hard not to see this as Gaza while I was watching it too,
Yeah.
it was all that imagery.
But also they have a martyr.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they're carrying a dude. Yeah,
that's right.
It is.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
And so you have this. And this is all shot. It's like one long, like 5-minute take.
The jihadists coming in is another great thing that, like, it does over and over again in the movie, where it'll just, like I referenced at the beginning, we'll just insert something as if it is known to the characters in the universe, like as if it's normal, and then you're just like, wait, what the fuck? They're like, I thought it was just the fishes, and there's like kutbists. There's like fucking
there's the whole thing. And there's so many good like that too. Like early on in the movie, you see the background, like the various doomsday movements going on in the background, and then one of the
like, hey, one of Theo's ex-girlfriends is like one of those.
I was going to bring that up
now.
Mentioning you mentioned like the handful of funny scenes in it. One of them is early on, Theo and Jasper, and Theo's just talking about like. Yeah, one of his ex-girlfriends ended up, with one of these repentant movements, and then another one ended up here. Oh, modern dating now. It's it's so funny.
Hell yeah.
But no, so you have just absolute chaos, and as they end up in another building.
They're like up in a tower block, running from both the fishes and the army.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, but this is kind of a weird thing about. Do you guys feel like the movie is like a little both sidesy with how it handles that conflict, and kind of like, because I'm like, the military is just evil, and so they really just have to do all this legwork to be like, well, if there was like resistance to this, it would have to be evil, because like we can't even like imagine actually opposing the government in a violent way. Like we have to kind of immediately foreclose that possibility.
Maybe for me. I see what you're saying. For me, like I saw it as like maybe both sides, but to me the military is the obvious bad guy, and then there's a lot of really imperfect revolutionary movements that you don't love them either, but obviously if you're going to have to pick a side, like that which to me feels like a like representing that closure of the future. Like all we have are either imperial power or like death cult like response to it. You know what I mean? That's it. Those are the options.
But I do think that is a valid criticism, because the movie, if you're not paying very close attention, does make it seem like the fishes and the military, like if you're not paying close attention, it could seem like the fishes and the military are equally bad, where like that's not true. It's just that like the fishes are bad in a different way.
Right.
So there's a point in all of this conflict where Key and Theo get separated, and Key gets taken by the fishes, and there's this moment. And there's this moment where now I've already mentioned Charlie Hunnam, that's the actor's name, is supposed to kill Theo once like Luke and the rest of the fishes are out of sight. But then it gets like disrupted by an army group coming in, and so then Theo has to like run and like try to find Key, and then that's how they end up in the tower block, because Luke has taken Key up onto this tower block that the army is laying siege to, which is very reminiscent of the way that the Russians besieged Chechnya.
Oh wow.
Huh. Like the way that they are assaulting that tower block is very reminiscent of like the Balkan Wars and the wars in the Caucasus in the 90s. Like that scene is like this whole like set piece is very like Balkans, Caucasus fighting. Like that's what it's referencing. Like that's the reference. Obviously, it's also Gaza. Like that's a thing that we're pulling now, but to me,
like when they were making it, they probably had that on.
I mean, they also were probably having Gaza on their mind as well, but like the images of tanks just like firing rounds into the bases of tower blocks is like that's fully Russia in Chechnya.
It not that there wasn't obviously violence in Israel-Palestine at this time as well, but I think the complete demolition of just like blocks of like urban space feels like something that's hitting us hard right now, because that's this moment in Israel-Palestine. As I don't know if that would have been, to my knowledge, that moment quite. It's still bad. It was still bad.
Yeah.
Things weren't going great in Gaza in 2006, but anyway, so we end up at this moment where Theo's able to get Key and the baby
and
away from Luke.
The moment where it happens,
it's so seamless. Barely.
Like the moment where he gets got. Did you catch it?
No. Wait. Maybe. Where are you going with that? Like, what happened?
So it took me I watched this movie like 3 times before I realized the moment where Theo actually gets shot.
Oh, right. Where is it?
So Theo has Key over here and is getting ready to take her. Luke is like holed up in a window, shooting down at the army. And then Theo moves to take Key, and Luke moves, fires a couple of shots, and then he goes back down and shoots again, and then Luke gets blown up, and Theo and Key run. And there's just it literally took me like 3 times watching the movie to see Clive Owen go just like tiny flinch,
like a little shoulder movement,
just like a tiny little. Okay. I watched this movie so many times. I assumed so many times throughout the movie that like he just like caught a stray while doing this whole thing, and but no, Luke shot him. Like it's there.
It's like it's so quick. Okay,
but it's so fast, and it's actually the way people react to kind of getting winged, which is like it hits you. It doesn't like blow you back. Like in like fucking John Wick or something like that. You just kind of go, piss.
Ow.
I got shot. Yeah. God, I'm bleeding a lot right now. But I can still move. And he is like determined to keep going. But like neither of you, like I said, it took me a lot. It took me.
No, I didn't catch that. So that's wild. And this is now we are in what I would call my favorite sequence of the movie here. So it's kind of why I missed that. But yeah, so we have Luke, explosion, and so now it's Key and the baby and Theo like running away. And Luke, before he dies, he makes a comment where he was just like, I forgot what they looked like about the baby.
So beautiful.
Yeah. And
that guy's sus.
I mean, I'm not a fan of Luke, I just say.
But Chiwetel Ejiofor did deserve an award for this role.
Oh yeah, he did great. But so because of all this going on, of course, the baby is crying. And this is the scene that I think of constantly with this movie, which is this brutal war scene slowly dying out for a second because everyone's registering what the sound is. And so like the everyone in the block is just like stunned and letting them through, and they're descending down the staircase, and the soldiers are like dropping their weapons, just stunned, and music's just coming in. But what makes the scene so good to me is that I think it gets so close to being too sentimental, but doesn't cross the line, because it doesn't last, to me anyway, like the war doesn't stop.
Well, the punchline of the scene that makes it work is that it stops for just long enough for it to be like a little, like almost like a little bit corny, and then immediately someone shoots a rocket and they start killing each other.
Yeah, and so because of that, I think the whiplash of
the cynical punchline of it.
Yeah, there's the cynicism to it, and because of that, also though, I think you don't. So like, I could see like if it lasts a little longer, it becomes real corny, but it's just being enough that it's almost corny for half a second, comes off as sincerity to me. It comes off as like genuine. And like, that's the thing, is that's the scene that guts me. Like I have cried almost every time I've watched the movie at that scene. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just that I don't know. I'm an anti-war hippie at heart or whatever, but just that moment.
Only one movie makes me cry.
Well, if you say Spring Breakers, I'm going to kill you.
No, I'm being sincere. I'm saying it in a jokey voice, but I'm being sincere. No, okay. It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, Also,
every time when they say the Hark the Herald Angels sing at the end of it, I cry literally every time.
Yeah,
tears down my face.
It's a Wonderful Life is one of my favorite movies. Next year, that's our Christmas special.
Show building it along.
Love It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah, I like the downer Christmas movies. I like Children of Men and It's a Wonderful Life. So how do they get to the boat? How does this happen? Because this is basically the final sequence.
They meet back up with the Roma person, and she is able to get them a boat that essentially like goes through a sewer. So they're able to escape when the fighting restarts. They're able to escape. They get through this kind of like sewer aqueducty type thing, and they get out. And now they're in the English Channel. And something that is very, very ominous that you see happen in this scene as Theo is rowing them out to the buoy. Key is looking, and she goes, "Theo, the buoy!" And they're rowing, and you see jets fly over.
Oh, yeah.
And then a big explosion.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't register. That was just them destroying Brex Hill, probably, right?
Yeah, and presumably killing their own... Yeah, presumably killing even their own personnel doing so.
Yeah, they might have nuked it.
Yeah,
like it's very big. But you see these jets fly over, and then they get to the buoy, and it's like kind of around the time that the Human Project is supposed to be there, and they're sitting, and you think, "Oh shit, it's not real."
Yeah. And then there's a version of this movie that's like a Haneke movie or something where they just sit on the boat and then
or it's like Brave of the Fireflies.
Yeah.
So this is the moment where Key looks down and she sees blood in the bottom of the boat and Theo holding his side, and he says he got me, and it took a while, and but I went, he got me, and I was like, okay,
Luke shot him.
Had to have been Luke. So then I went back and
it was just a stray too. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It was like, he got me. And so that's why I went back and I watched that scene a bunch of times, and I finally saw it, and I went, oh shit. But so Theo has been shot and he is dying. And he's going, and he kind of just finally smiles and slumps over.
Yeah. The refugee lady says that she's going to name his kid after his dead kid.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. She says Dylan is a girl's name too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's very sweet. I don't know. Sorry, I just wanted to say that because I think it's
it's wonderful. And then the movie holds. And again, it's like you were saying, Josiah. It could like holding on a corny note potentially or whatever. But the movie holds there for a minute, and you kind of think, oh, they're going to go to black.
Yeah.
And then this boat just kind of looms out of the horizon, and it's sort of like what you were saying, where it kind of represents some sort of eschatological, apocalyptic, unveiling type situation. The first thing you see is this luminous light shrouded in fog coming towards you that you can't make the shape out of, and then there's a boat, and there it is.
Yeah. It's very liminal. I mean, it's in the sense that, I guess in a very literal sense, the English Channel is a liminal space.
Yeah.
But it's very between worldsy while that shit is going on. It's good cinematography. It works good.
So anyway, that's the plot.
Of the movie.
That's the movie.
Do we want to talk about Lee Edelman's criticism of it?
Let's.
Because that's it's a really esoteric reading, but we talked. It's a really esoteric reading, but we talked about bringing it up.
Yeah, let's hold it for a second here, and then I want to do it. But I think part of why the sentimentality in this movie works for me so well, both in the scene where the war stops, and then also toward the end, that hope ends up being real, is that the movie doesn't feel safe the whole time. I think I'd be a lot more critical about those happy endings if the movie feels safe. But if you're watching this movie for the first time, like I was, I had no belief that there was a happy ending to this movie. You have no sense that this is going to have a happy ending.
You think these people are going to die the entire fucking movie?
Yeah.
And it doesn't milk that ending either. It just gives us, when it goes to the credits, it gives us that audio of children laughing, vaguely implying that this works out. But there's another world that has the most like that has like an insanely corny ending where like it's hip to be square, and then it's like now like all the kids are back and it's epic, like every country is cool now and now it's awesome. Like
No, because I mean, yeah, that's so funny.
I'm saying if you overdo like how well this is going to turn out, because at the end of it, even the positive ending is still like, all right, we got one kid, bro. Like, there's only so.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
We have no idea what this is going to look like. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we want to move to Lee Edelman then? Maybe. Let's see.
Sure. It's a bit of a weird reading, but it's interesting.
It is. Yeah. Well, you know what? I'll give the last thing I'll say, because there's also that review I sent last week that I liked that review a lot.
In the New Statesman.
Yeah. The New Statesman. At least it lays out kind of, I think, the consensus view
weird.
of the movie. Well, yeah.
Well, I don't know. It gives equal time to Mark Fisher and Ross Douthat.
Yeah, okay, I didn't love that, but what I
throw it up in my mouth.
But I will give it is this chunk here that I particularly liked, which is beyond these parallels and prophecies lies the film's true disturbing force. It's philosophical iconoclasm. Cuarón places the future of humanity in the body of an immigrant black woman, perhaps the most powerless, disenfranchised, stigmatized, and exploited individual in the modern great chain of being. That was the line from it that stuck out to me anyway, because I think that's where this works as a nativity story as well. Like where it's the whole movie is designed around a nativity story, but that's where I think it gets its like theological weight, even if you don't quite agree with, or if you don't, you're not a religious person. I think what it's trying to do is point the fate of humanity, the hope of humanity in the disenfranchised, and that's what I love about this movie.
The powerless are actually the most important people
and represent the future, whatever the future is.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting. However, yeah, let's throw in some of the criticisms of this movie real quick. And one of the most esoteric.
I was say, also in his review, in reference to that, Armand White referred to it as a white savior narrative.
God damn it. Armand White.
That's all. Let me keep going.
So yeah, that's one criticism of the movie. Armand White has his criticisms.
You could all.
I mean, here's the thing. It's not there. Yeah, but like, okay, here's the thing. I joke around about liking Armand White. In reality, this is like a thing that he does where it's like, okay, I actually hate the guy. Just kidding. Like, I think that it's like funny to bring up stuff that he says. And like sometimes he actually like makes a good point, but it's usually
he's halfway to a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like like when he makes a good point, it's usually just because he's being incredibly contrarian, and it just so happens to be that the general consensus is wrong. Like it's almost by accident. And both like if you're gonna read it that way, I do think that's like a pretty bad faith reading, and it's part of like a general thing he'll do where he'll try to like one up a thing that liberals like by implying like, well, actually, if you were like really aware of like thoughts about race in cinema, then you would actually realize that this is crypto-racist, and that like a really good movie is something from 1963. like that's what he always does. That's just a movie from like 1962 that he's like is way better than this.
Right. Well, let's go to probably the harshest criticism, I would say. Because I think it has some weight, and I don't know what to do with it, which is, of course, So Capitalist Realism by Mark Fisher starts with it. Another iconic to 5 people, theoretical text that begins with a discussion of Children of Men. Those people are me, Alien, now Chris Barker, and Keanu Haydari, guests of the show.
And then an unknown 5th person.
And then there's someone else, I'm sure. Alien, I only know this because of Keanu. So shout out to Keanu. But Lee
Actually,
Edelman,
no, I found it.
Hold
on, whatever. I found it via. Actually, hold on. This is not even interesting to put in the podcast, but like I found it because of research that me and Josh were doing about nihilism for an aborted project that we were going to talk about political nihilism. We found that there was a.
That sounds like a fitting conclusion to a political nihilism project.
But it was really just bumming us out too much. Like, if you read this stuff all day, every day, it like starts to like ruin your brain.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about a ruin your brain criticism because Lee Edelman's book No Future begins with a discussion of Children of Men and a less than positive portrayal of it. Do you want to kind of? I think Aylin, you're probably the one who understands Lee Edelman the best out of us, but
you're putting it on the queer guy. That's what you're doing.
Well, yeah, also that, because if I criticize this, I feel bad.
Yeah, sure, I can describe it. I won't be able to describe it as well as Keanu, but I can explain it. Yeah. I mean, Keanu knows this better than I do because he actually understands like Lacan.
Yeah. So if this is a basic understanding, if you have other questions, go to Keanu.
Yeah, I didn't say that. No, I mean, Keanu says that he talked to Lee Edelman, and Lee Edelman said that you don't actually need to know anything about Lacan to understand the central point of the book. So, shouts out. Basically, Lee Edelman founded the school of thought called queer nihilism. He originally has his background in film, and before doing later work in queer studies. And so in this book references a number of films. He has like a very funny, resistant reading of A Christmas Carol. But I'm not even gonna I can't get into that, man. But
that one pisses me off.
Okay, so basically
that's a whole other podcast that we need.
Yeah. If I understand it correctly, his criticism is that all political projects are premised on this like secret hidden ideology called reproductive futurism. He describes it in a couple of different ways, but like to semi over compress it, what it basically is the idea that part and parcel of what it means to be a society is to perpetuate that society through sexual reproduction, and that an element of that is forestalling of desires, like projecting them onto the future. Right, like things are bad now, but they'll be better for future generations. Like, leave this planet better than how you found it, kind of shit. Right, even the whole idea of like, we're like the idea of like we're preserving it for future generations. Even sort of phrasing like that is the language of reproductive futurism. And what Edelman contends is that this is this idea is necessary to have politics as such, because to have a political view of what society should be, you are always assuming reproductive futurism as part of that project, whether you are a conservative or a leftist or a liberal or whatever. It's a part of Marxism, Leninism. It's a part of fascism. It's a part of everything that can be described as political.
Whatever.
So what that means from his perspective is that queerness, people who deviate from this cultural plan, this necessity of politics to perpetuate the species and project our own desires onto it, that these people are not just punished, but and are not just excluded in some societies, but can never ever be fully integrated into any society, is what he's saying. That queerness is outside of politics. It is against politics. And he makes a comment that liberals in America naively believe that queer people can be brought into the fold of American society through tolerance, whereas conservatives are far more realistic in understanding us as a threat to civilization as such. And so what Edelman says about this with regard to the position of the queer is like, well, what should the queer's attitude be, right, towards the world? And his answer is identification with the death drive, is to say that if politics is essentially, once we cut past all the bullshit, is about perpetuation of the race through sexual reproduction, then the position of the queer should be to embrace this outsider position, this position of nihilism, of queer nihilism, of saying like I am literally outside all of this, And what I want is pure negation with no corresponding alternate political project, right? Mm-hmm. And he extends this as far to talking about abortion, for example, which he uses as an example of this, is that he says, your two choices are pro-choice and pro-life. You can't be pro-abortion. I'm pro-abortion. Like, it was like, I am for the end of this shit, motherfucker. And his criticism of
when Chris last week read, I don't know if you finished it, but read chunks of No Future just to know what we were talking about, and he had texted me and just said, my mouth has been like open, like my jaw has been on the floor for like an hour.
Do you think I described it well, Chris? Is that your understanding of what he was saying?
I mean, yeah. Like you're like I was going through it, going, fucking hey, man, this dude's got a flamethrower.
Yeah. It is like so bleak. And his criticism of Children of Men essentially is that he's on the side of the impotents, and he's saying like the fact that the whole premise of the movie is there's no more children. Is we're not gonna have any more, right? It's all about impotence. He was saying that sort of the fact that the movie needs to end with this happy ending, with like, yes, like, oh, this is epic, like, oh, reproductive futurism has been saved. Yes, babies are epic. I love them. Like, that it has to end with this, like, essentially shows the edge of like the imagination of the political, like that it cannot conceive of anything beyond pure continuation of the human race as a possibility, right? Okay, here's the thing. Look, since I'm the only queer guy here, right? I totally don't agree with this thesis.
So interestingly, I was about to say that I do think that there is some like really interesting meat on the bone there. There is. There is like if you're not gonna go full, we're all fucking dead. Like there does have to be some sort of reproduction there, right? Yeah. And so like if you're not willing to go like, and believe me, again, like I said, I think about like, man, what if no more babies all the time? Like I think about, because like I live in a rainforest here in Chattanooga, and I just like think like, man, if nobody was here, how long would it take for the forest to like take over my apartment complex?
Damn, that shit is
I think about that a lot. You know, and like I really, really think about this a lot. And so I do think that there is some meat on the bone of the critique of like, like you can't, unless you're going to embrace, no, actually we're fucked. There has to be like a thing of hope. And that does represent at least a little bit a dearth of imagination. But please go ahead, Alien, continue. Sorry. You were saying you don't buy it.
Well, I mean, I understand it as a criticism of that movie in a very, if you're going up to that bell, you better ring it kind of a way, right? Mm-hmm. I understand that kind of line of thinking with regard to it. But, I mean, as far as Lee Edelman's philosophy, like, I don't personally subscribe to it. Like, I don't agree. Let me put it this way. There are days when I feel like Lee Edelman. There are days when I feel like Lee Edelman. When
we talked about this in the past, the way you had put it was, it's not, you don't agree with him, but it's emotionally true.
Yes, that's what I think, is that like it feels true, but that doesn't mean that it necessarily like is. And I think that the way that the queer community has responded in general, and maybe this is asking a different question than he is, because he's sort of asking, if I'm interpreting it correctly, which I may not be, I believe he's asking sort of a normative question of what ought we do. And I'm sort of being descriptive here. So you know what I'm saying? It's a little bit apples and oranges, but I think it'll help you understand my perspective. If we look at the AIDS crisis and this period of time where the queer community was not just being given nothing, they were given less than nothing, actively under attack at a time when the government was literally making the decision, by choosing not to address HIV/AIDS, they were making the decision not that it was not that it was worth killing queer people than to allow them to live. No, what they were deciding, because they knew that cisgender heterosexuals would die from sexual contact, through sharing needles, through blood transfusions, because they knew all of this. They weren't choosing that it was worth it for some queer people to die rather than live. They were choosing that there are a certain number of straight people that we are willing to kill in order to kill even more queer people. Was the choice that Reagan administration did, right? Isn't that bleak, right? And isn't that sinister, right? And even that, in that nihilistic of a circumstance, it would have been obvious. It would have been totally easy to say, fuck this government, fuck this whole world, and at this time, you can't go to the communists because the Marxist-Leninists are all homophobic at the time. There's a pamphlet called Coming Out of the Red Closet you can read if you want to know about that. And there was no one. There was only themselves and select few people who were willing to help. And what did they do? They fought for life. They fought for the continuation of the society. They fought for the civilization that was trying to kill them, because they chose that over what they could have done. They could have rioted in the streets. They could have just walked around and just shot people. They could have said, I don't care about any of this. I'm going to burn the city down. But they didn't. They chose to take the maximal position of preserving life, not just of themselves, but of not just of people in their community, but also but of people in the world. To try to mitigate
people part of the order that do not deserve it from the queer perspective.
Yes.
And they did it anyway.
And they did it anyway. And what I would say to Lee Edelman is, if we look back on what happened and this counterfactual, which do we prefer? Really, in our hearts. I can't say that I wish it had gone differently. I'm happy that people did everything that they could. It makes me proud. And if they had just reacted nihilistically in rebellion against this society, that would have made me ashamed. And I know that that's an argument for motion as well, but it's the truth of how I feel. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I can't agree.
Mm-hmm.
And also, from what you were saying, fighting for a culture of life. It's like, okay, if you're nihilistic, then like, okay, look, I'm like the most painfully straight person who's ever existed.
Yeah.
So obviously not like an expert on this, but like, if you go maximally nihilistic, right, that means that queer culture ceases to exist.
Yes,
and queer
exactly.
Culture is actually really cool.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And why would you give that up?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree with that also, right, of that. I mean, maybe he would feel something like, well, it's not reproductive futurism because we're not reproducing, so that feels different.
But it's
like
still
we're merely...
But there's still a futurism.
It still is kind of that. Damn, you're kind of right.
Because
Keanu's gonna roast my Keanu.
No, I'm sure. Keanu is smarter than me, and I know that this criticism. He'll probably dismantle this if he listens to this. But
I literally hope you don't, Keanu.
But I would say, like, yeah, there is a futurity, because, and and this is again an outsider perspective, like Chris is saying, but I see that there is a tradition of queer people taking care of each other, and older queer people taking care of younger queer people, and there is a sense of futurism built into that. It may not be reproductive in the like literal sexual sense, but it is
for having kids. They're going to be more queers.
There is a reproduction of this culture, that I do think. I think that and also I think that this movie represents, through the like, even if it's not queer, this movie isn't queer, right? But it like what I was saying in that one review I was reading, it identifies the future with the disenfranchised. And so in a way, and I am kind of forcing this on the text, but I think it's there. I think it's kind of there. If the future is the disenfranchised, then queer culture is the future. that is where we can find future.
It could also be a queer movie because it's about a man and a woman who don't have sex.
There you go. That's true.
No, it's stupid. This is stupid.
No. I mean,
it doesn't make any sense at all. And the thing is, I don't like to dip too deep into this because low key, like, straight people shouldn't know about this. Like, it's because it's such. Because here's the thing: it's like white people reading about Afro-pessimism. It's like you shouldn't be getting this into your brain because the way you're gonna act if you start thinking this way is so bad. Like, if you just start being like, yeah, queer people are opposed. I don't mean you two guys specifically. I just mean one gets into their head like, oh yeah, queer people are just they represent the death drive and are in pure opposition to all civilization. Then it's like, you're just gonna be like a Nazi.
Well, or you're gonna be like this guilt-ridden guy who's like, well,
oh Lord,
my civilization, it's built on my straightness. I should just kill myself. Oh my
God. Just like
God.
flagellating all the time.
Jesus Christ.
No. I think Lee Edelman is interesting to engage with, but I also think you're right that I just think there's probably it's probably not great to follow this line of thinking. I think especially if you're a straight person, because I mean, like, you're not going to be a good ally if you're thinking.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
No, you should be fucking watching. No, watch like Bros with Billy Eichner if you want to be a good ally. Watch like Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Well, I think we probably should move toward wrapping up here because we've been going for like 2 hours here.
What would you give it out of 10? I don't do ratings out of 10, but I could do one for this because that might be fun. What would you give it out of 10?
10 out of 10 for me. I think Chris will say the same thing.
I mean, yeah, probably. The bigger thing is, like, when people ask me, like, hey, what's a movie that you put on to just have a movie on? This is one of the movies that I say.
That's insane. I can't imagine that being the case.
That's insane for me too, just because this movie grips me so much emotionally that it's not a movie I can have on in the background, because unless I want to just be crying all the time.
No, like what I mean is, like, hey, I feel like watching a movie, and there's like 4 or 5 movies where I'm like, hey, today I want to watch a movie. What am I going to put on? And I'm not like in a particular mood for a specific movie. I'll just be like, I'll watch
Children.
Yeah. Do you have one of those? Do you have one of those, Josiah?
Not really. I do really watch like a different movie every time. I don't know.
I mean, another one of mine, which maybe is going to like betray my taste. I don't know. But another one of my just because I want to watch a movies is the Keira Knightley Pride and Prejudice. I fucking love that.
Hell yeah.
I love that movie so much.
For me, it's probably Under the Silver Lake. I've seen that movie a lot of times. It used to be Primer for me, yeah. I've seen Primer. I've seen Primer so many times. What I'd give the movie, it's at least an 8. Like, I think the floor of it is that it has to be an 8. Like, I'd give it like, I'd give it like an 8.5 or something like that. I think that it is... Okay, despite the things that I pointed out as like criticisms or whatever, in terms of like all of that being said, it's like, okay, like what's a better sci-fi movie from that decade?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, maybe none of them. So maybe that's an argument for it being like a 9 or something. But whatever, this is why I don't do ratings, because they're all arbitrary and silly.
Yeah.
You know, it's great. Come on, watch it and come on. First off, if you got this far and haven't watched it, then I've no idea, you're weird. But like, you know, you gotta see it. Like,
you should see it. You should see it.
But,
yeah, it's an amazing movie.
Yeah, that's where you should end up. Yeah, the movie.
Well, I would like to say, as we're wrapping up, though, that this is the final episode of Fruitless for 2023. So
true.
I would like to say thank you, everybody who has been listening this year. Especially as I kind of got this relaunched, the show kind of relaunched in August. Appreciate everybody who has started joining the Patreon and, you know, doing this stuff and just kind of listening as I've been figuring this podcast out. So I appreciate it. And I hope that I have more fun stuff in 2024. And it sounds like next year we're doing It's a Wonderful Life and A Christmas Carol or something. So next Christmas.
Everybody.
Dude, yes, right. I am down to do like a deep exegesis of both A Christmas Carol and
It's a Wonderful Life.
I
would
you an Alien next year. I am so fucking down.
Yeah, I would. This crew revisiting It's a Wonderful Life has a lot of background stuff. It's not the same kind of set design as Children of Men, of course, but like there's a lot of that, like very careful set design in that movie that would be fun to. Anyway, thank you everybody for listening, and I'll see you next year.
TGYL.
See you. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Fruitless, the last episode of Fruitless for 2023. It's been a fun year. Please remember to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps us out with the algorithm and helps people find the show. And also, if this is your first time listening to the show, check out other episodes, etc. And we have a Patreon. It's in the show notes. You can check that out. It's got more content if you like content. And speaking of the Patreon, this episode is brought to you by our lovely patrons, who include Chris Barker, Leo Zachary Dickinson, James R., Thomas C., Kyle Gannis, Moss, The Worst of All Possible Worlds, Steven, a.k.a. Spike Stonehand, and Gavin Aronson. Looking forward to seeing you in the new year.